Okay, well, thank you very much for keeping pace with us. This is Serious Matters on ONIF TV. Well, doing our best to connect to every nooks and crannies of the world through the best TVs in the country. We have Channels Television. We'll be joining Channels Television. Credit to them already. We'll be joining Arise TV. We'll be joining TVC, and all of them. We'll be getting information from those quarters and sharing with you, even as you please go ahead and share the platform, like our page, and please do drop your comments, make them simple and civil. Let us know what your opinions are. In the course of this broadcast, a number will scroll. You are permitted to call in, to drop opinions. You are permitted to call in, to share views of what is happening in your vicinity with us. And please avoid fake news. Don't give us any information that you are not sure of. I don't want maybe or not sure, all of that. Make sure you are dropping very good news. Once again, good morning. And here we are. The long-awaited 2023 general election is here. And it has come to stay. And so, in a moment, I mean, in fact, the pollings have been open now. This is already past 8, and I'm sure INEC officials are already on ground in different polling units, and of course, Nigerians are already heading for the poll, to begin their accreditation. Thank you very much for joining us once again. My name is Olukunle Abrams, and I'm here to dole out and to serve you, the best of information that you will require to know as this election proceeds. Thank you very much once again. Let us still stick with Channels Television on this one and hear what guys they have to say. We have Sheno Kimbale, unusually in the studio. He's always on the field, but this time around he's in the studio. And we have Chamberlain and the likes. Thank you very much once again. God bless you.
To the bill, right, was being proposed. Plans and arrangements were being made to say, this is what the provisions of the bill. If it passes, it has been passed by both houses. So INEC had to adjust itself and say, look, we must work with this bill. There are certain things that a lot of proposals were put forward by us. A lot of them were accepted, some were not. So now that we've seen these ones that have been accepted, how do we implement it? Regardless of whether you like it or you don't like it, you must implement the law as is passed by the both houses of National Assembly and assented by the president. So, in the ground running, what do we do? Get the lawyers look at these things. What the operational people? How do we work with this? So, and there's an election budget plan, which usually it's a round-the-clock kind of thing. The election is a process, they always say, and we must ensure that everything we do is in accordance with the position of the act.
Well, Mr. Wago, if I could second guess you, I know you usually say that no election is the same. So no matter how much you're observing all of those things, you will always look certain things. So going through this day, from how you've been keeping up to ensure that things are done, processes are set up right, what's your impression about today?
Well, thank you, Jeff. I just think that our investments generally in the electoral process, and electoral administration generally will be on trial. And that investment comes from the understanding that election is not an event. It's a series of activity process that then culminates into the E-Day that we have. We had the voter
and all the positive elements it brings to consolidate the integrity.
Buying. This announcement is brought to you by Channels Television, a network built on trust.
The 2023 general election is here, and we want you to share with us social media handles using this hashtag or through our email 2023verdict.
And all the positive elements it brings to consolidate the integrity of the election. I urge the candidates contesting these elections at all levels to respect the voice and choice of voters and accept the results of the elections as announced by INEC, the agency empowered by law to do so. Any aggrieved candidate should resort to the established judicial processes, and we must have the confidence to trust our legal systems. I once again ask the candidates to abide by the spirit and letter of the accord they have signed today. Let me remind all Nigerians, not for the first time, that this is the only country we have, and we must do everything to keep it safe, united, and peaceful. There should be no rights or acts of violence after the assignment of the election results. All grievances, personal or institutional, should be channeled to the relevant courts.
It's not an event. It's a series of activity process that then culminates into the E-Day that we have. We had the voter registration exercise and all that goes with it. Going to see whether your name was properly spelled and all of those things, with the idea of having an authentic voter register. And you know that an authentic register is the foundation for credible, fair election. Your voter register is not what you can confidently rely upon, and the whole process itself challenged. So we've gone through that. We've gone through candidate selection process that came through the political parties themselves. We have gone through campaigns, whether they were issue-based, whether they came from, whether the engagement was as robust as we wanted. It's now for history to document for us. And then we're now today at the E-Day, where the different, everybody in the election pyramid will come to display. We have rehearsed. The rehearsal period is over now. This is the time to do the drama, to play that drama. And the attention of the world is here. International community, observers, everyone is come. Those who have also come to learn. There's also many from different African countries have also come to learn the process. But at the end of the day, it is a festival of voters. Whatever we say, the day is for voters.
Yeah.
And if the voters understand what that means for them, then we will have.
Well, Prof, I don't mind learning. So, that's a professorial one for you, which I don't have. So, as a matter of fact, I often joke with my colleagues at having to get behind the scenes. I ask, as the days of 101, where you get to the University of Lagos, you see the door, they say, life is politics for posters. I don't know if it's the same thing, or UNN, but maybe you could just tell us. So, from your perspective, from the classroom to the field to what you're seeing in terms of the practicals going on, connect these dots for us.
Well, let me take over from where he stopped. We essentially essentially is saying the same thing by using different terminologies. Okay, like all the preparations they talked about, we call them the non-ballot factors, the non-ballot elements that were put in place prior to today when the ballot element comes in. Because when you talk about democracy, it's not just about voting. Voting is just one element in that mosaic that we call democracy. And how would that happen? This one is different in the sense that since at a time, first of all, at a time of democratic reversal of democracy, especially in African countries, in West Africa in particular, Nigeria seems our 24th liberal. Whatever may be the shortcomings of that, now that we've gone this far, is something for us to commend ourselves. And they have always, since the starting of that dispensation, always been a longing for what people used to call head force. In other words, instead of our, two-party dominant system, that is system where only two political parties are viable enough to capture power at the federal level. It used to actually be one, the APC. So we moved from a one-party dominant system where only one party was viable enough to capture the presidency. The two-party system, and now saying probably the true multi-party arrangement in which we probably have a better fourth strong party. That to be seen at the conclusion of the vote. And the expectations are huge. And it's also the very first time when the youth segment was valorized, and I don't think it's precedented. I mean, we don't have anything like that. So we are just looking at how it pans out. Hopefully, the other measures that were put in place, the non-ballot element, they will not come to them.
Interesting. I understand that we've since been joined by a security consultant and expert, the former AIG of the police, AIG Wilson Inalegu, who joins us virtually. Thank you so much and good to see you. I hope that you are going to be able to vote today too. Thanks for joining the team. How do you feel generally? We've been trying to analyze how the process is and the significance of this election. From your own point of view, give us an understanding of how significant this exercise is. AIG, you seem to have muted yourself. Could you unmute? That's sometimes what technology does for you. It tends to guide you. but let me come back here. The worst at the best. At the best of time. So we'll allow AIG to help us resolve that. Mr. Uzi, interesting. You're on this side of the divide this time around. You're not answering the questions, but we're analyzing this together. So it makes things very interesting. Let me ask you, how significant is this election for you?
I think very much so because of different reasons.
Or perhaps what makes this election significant?
Okay, let's start from where my colleagues had stopped. First of all, for the first time, there's a belief amongst analysts that there are at least three tendencies that have a realistic and very good chance of taking over, winning the election and taking over power. Proud to now, as Prof said, maybe one, maybe two. But as an administrator, election administrator, I'll say, well, all 18 parties have a chance, so we don't know who will win, and we don't concern ourselves with tendencies, but what happens on the day when people cast their ballot. For the first time, there is no military, ex-military person involved directly as a serious, quote-unquote, candidate in the election. That's the first time since 1998, and that is an interesting one. And for the first time, the three what people call major ethnic groups are represented amongst quote-unquote the front runners again. So that presents a unique challenge. Then there's the demographics. The youth have been so galvanized, and for the first time, they seem to form a critical mass. Whether that mass will go with one or the other or split their votes, it's another thing that those who are in that aspect of analyzing things can say. But I am not in a position to actually say, because we're only concerned with what happens when you go into polling booth and cast your ballot. I don't know what the results of that will be. From the perspective of the electoral managers, look, for the first time, technology has been...
Okay, yes. Sorry, we'll join channels back, but I have a short video of what's already happening in Ekiti. So I want to show you that so that we can get. Preparation for voting at Ado-Irono, Ado-Ekiti. Preparation for voting at Ado-Irono, Ado-Ekiti, at Ado-Irono, Unit 009, Ward 11, Ado-Ekiti, Ekiti State, setting up for voting Pobiko by INEC officials, name check by voters, filing on the queue preparatory to the formal opening of polls and accreditation voting. And so you see that they are very prepared, they are organized and all of that. They are excited about this particular process, and from all I see there, we have more of young Nigerians on the queue. Let's watch that again. All right, we'll go back to join Channels Television to continue with our connection and discussions at Channels Television.
Recognized unequivocally so. In 2015, 2019, it was there. The issue of Kadrida was in the guidelines. It was not recognized in the Electoral Act or in the Constitution. Constitution is the framework. It's a structure upon which the Electoral Act built, and the electoral guidelines were the ones that actually life and the blood. They give all the details not covered by the Electoral Act and by the Constitution. But in the hierarchy of laws, the regulations and guidelines are inferior to the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act is made by the representatives of the people. The Constitution is the ground norm, is the framework upon which everything we do is hinged. Is the Constitution that sets up political parties. Is the Constitution that sets up INEC. Is the Constitution that sets up the legislature, the judiciary. So everything is hinged on it. So it's superior to every other thing. So in that hierarchy of laws, that's the way it goes. Prior to now, the technology was recognized more in the INEC guidelines. So where there was now a conflict between the role of technology, especially the card reader, in the process, since it was not covered by the Electoral Act, the only way we recognize the accreditation of people is by the ticks. So there have been significant modifications of our electoral process due to the framework amendments in the Electoral Act. So these are being tested for the first time. There are other innovations there. For example, results announced will probably be provisional. Provisional in the sense that the returning officer makes a return, but ultimately it rests with the commission within 7 days where there's a protest to either validate that result or take a decision that may be contrary to it. These are new things that are coming on for the first time amongst other innovations. So that's the significance of this particular election. Some of the issues.
I was going to go to AIG, but the innovations you talk about in terms of INEC's plans and the voting process results at the end of the day would play a significant role in what the outcome of these elections are. I was going to go to the Prof to talk about the science of this election process, the voting tendencies and all that. But before I come back to you, the AIG, we'll come back to you. She'll ask you a question earlier about your expectations and the excitement around these elections. What is it to you in terms of preparations for these elections, especially from the security point of view and the innovations introduced in the area of security?
First of all, I think this is a very huge moment in our nation's history. I don't think in the recent past we've had any elections that has generated such interest, both nationally and internationally. So I think the security agencies, especially has done everything possible to live up to expectation. There has been a lot of workforce development, innovation, communication. I mean, we now have a very vibrant cybercrime unit. We have all the different departments, the special forces, especially the police mobile force, and even the conventional unit. There is a lot of interest and a lot of training has gone into this. So I don't think we are going to have complaints from the security angle, because they have been properly trained. They have all given declared which they can make reference to. A lot of supervision has been in place. A lot of deployment to deal with incidences should they come up. And I think Nigerians should be comfortable and confident enough to go out freely to exercise their franchise. So I think we are going to have a large turnout beyond the figures that were displayed on your screen. Certainly, we are going to have more than 30-something, if not up to 40 million people turning out, registered voters turning out to cast their votes because of the relative security and the assurances that the security agencies have given. When I saw the IG and the INEC and the chairman addressing the press yesterday, I could see the confidence in their eyes. So I am quite confident. I appeal to Nigerians to feel free. Some people have even called me, oh, when do we go out to cast our vote? And I assured them, I said, look, we'll go by 8:30, we could go by 10, but rest assured that we'll be at the polling unit before 2:30 p.m. So I think we are good to go. That's right.
Okay, you talked about the security agencies, the security agents, and how prepared they are. I do know that there's this conversation around the positioning of the policemen within the polling unit. The armed policemen or the armed security agents are coming in at the third line or thereabout. But when you say they have been trained and prepared, there are those who are concerned about their mode of communication to the voters. Do you think that has been taken into cognizance? Because it's been a problem before now, where some say that the security operatives do not speak to them as they should. Was that also taken into cognizance, or is that part of the innovations that were introduced?
Yeah, part of the training is what are the expectations of Nigerians on their conduct at the polling. And they were told to be approachable. They were told to be of help when there are situations, and then they should be even-handed, no overzealousness. So they were quite trained, and not just being trained, retrained. They were given booklets, and they are not going to have armed officers close to the polling units. Those are going to stay far. Those are the technical assets and units that have been deployed within all the senatorial zones across for rapid response. But at the polling, the officers have been told approachable, even-handed, no bearing of weapon whatsoever, no overreacting to situation. And that is complemented by regular supervisory visits by senior officers that go to these different polling units to watch out for the conduct of and they are also.
Okay, sorry. Intermittently, I'll be, cutting in to show you recent happenings around the place. But then this is coming all the way from Osun, somewhere in Ilarogun. These guys were said to have been arrested who have been pretending to be DSS officers. So DSS officers, fake DSS officers arrested in Ilarogun in Osun State. fake DSS officers arrested in Ilaro-Ogun in Osun State. Let's take that. Let's take that report. Oh no! I have issues with our network.
Is your company having license to monitor election?
But our boss
No, just answer. Is your company having license to monitor election?
I don't know, sir. I don't answer that.
Have you been working with the company?
Not one, like 2 months.
Have you ever gone to the director of your company? General. That's not his name. What's his name? Chubosun. What's your own name? Olani. Faniyi. And you made an 6 of you. And you have been in the lab for 2 days now. Mr. Still lórúkọ ti yín? Sodiq Olayemi.
He guided this one.
Where are you from?
I'm from Ibadan.
From Ibadan. Which company do you work with?
Yes.
Are you having an election duty license?
That should be with my boss, sir.
With your boss?
Because I was told to come and work at him.
Are you an electorate in this vicinity?
No, sir.
You come and do what kind of work?
I was told that we are going to work with the police on the event and the Amatekun security company.
And you have been here for 2 days. Have you met the police?
No, I was told.
You have been here for 2 days. Have you met the police? Or the Amatekun or DSS or any?
I've not met any police, sir. But what they told me is that they are going there. If they permit us to work with them, say we are going to work. But if you don't permit us to work with them... But
without permission now, you started working?
We are not started working, sir.
What are you doing?
We moved to the venue.
Well, it simply shows that the security officials are doing the job very well. But then, when you see something, please say something. We'll join the former IG back at Channels TV.
It is not just a security business. We are going to have the media who visits polling units. We are going to have civil society organizations and others. So they are very much aware. And I think they are also interested. A lot of them are young. Most of the recent recruitments are in that young age. And all of them have that passion and patriotism to give to Nigeria the best top-class security. So electorates are going to find very friendly officers. Not fair, especially when it comes to this. And the presiding officer process. What they have to do, but it is there will be no reaction. It will be seen, it will be civil, it will be approachable, and step in when it is necessary.
I mean, our hopes are that those information and those directives given to these operatives, they are able to abide by them. And that's more important, because looking at section 26 of the electoral law talks about the oath election officials, which I'm going to come to in a moment. But we are 10 minutes away to the opening of the ballot. Election start at 8:30 a.m. So we're keeping things right in our side, and we're keeping tabs on all of this situation for you. We're seeing more of our commentaries from here on what is going on the field. Let's bring some of our reporters who are on the field into the fray now. We have from Lagos, our correspondent Olu Phillips, to give us an update of what is happening. I understand that he's been combing the very notorious areas of Oshodi, and when I say notorious, for those of us who've lived a long time in Lagos, we know what I mean by that. Olu Phillips, bring us up to now in that area.
The
morning of the election here on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, especially this axis that's usually very busy with commuter vehicles and those traveling, especially around the Kara Bridge area where sometimes have a lot of ghastly accidents. It's all free, deserted, and no one on the street except for pockets of vehicles moving and transporters and those who may have been caught napping, at some pedestrian who have been caught napping, waving down, trying to flag down any vehicle to see the possibility of joining them to their next destination. But if this is what compliance means, then it looks like we have a 100% situation here from the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway on the morning of the presidential election. Hopefully this will translate into people moving into their polling units and getting ready for the early morning version of the electoral process before voting starts in earnest. From the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Well, we're hoping to see some dramatic reporting from Olu Phillips from the Lagos, and he's covered Oshodi, he's covered Isolo, some very notorious circumstances we've seen in our past election. Dele Omoyeni is yet another reporter that is on the field in Anambra State, whom we are going to go to just in a moment, as soon as we are able to have contact and get contact with him.
But would you know that lots of people are already in the polling units?
Yeah.
The officials are already there, so they are trickling in to ensure that the process starts as smooth as possible by 8:30, few minutes away from that time when a big day will open for lots of people. And don't forget, it is voting and accreditation. So that is where it is. So if there's anything else,
the screen right behind you, we've used this for several days to count down. Absolutely. So now counting down 7 minutes to the opening of the ballot. Yep.
And then one of the next countdown will be to when the results will be announced.
That's a long way. Let's go there. Yeah. So I was going to something, Mr. Ozaziuze, coming to you. So we're looking at the integrity of the ballot, and it all boils down to those who are going to be manning it. And in the next 6 minutes or so, the ballots are going to be opening. And these are some of the adjustments that have been done to our electoral process. Before now, polls open at 8 a.m. and closes at 2 p.m. But it's been changed to 8:30 a.m. and closes at 2:30 p.m. As far as the last person who is on the queue before 2:30 gets to vote. But there is one interesting aspect of this. So you ask yourself, what gives, what confidence do you have to that the man who is the ad hoc official, the INEC official who are manning the polling unit will not be biased, will not be fraudulent? And so there is an oath of neutrality by election officials, and Section 26, 1 and 2 of the Electoral Law 2022 has been amended. Give us an understanding of what this means. You've been there. Did you swear that oath where you were with INEC? Is it everyone that is going to be part of this process that is meant to swear this oath of neutrality?
Absolutely. As you rightly observed, it has actually been amended. This is not how the section was couched in the 2010 Electoral Act. First of all, its dragnet has been extended. It includes not just presiding officers, electoral officers, returning officers, just about every official. And then, more importantly, it also includes security officials. That was not there before. There are now security officers. And number two, and more importantly, it has also penalized the subsection, section 2 of that section 26 has now made it an offense not to take that oath. So this was an innovation that was brought into the new act. The significance of that is that, look, apart from that, actually, in interpreting laws, you don't just read sections in isolation, read other sections. If you look at one of the sections, for example, there's dereliction of duty. Apart from being neutral and taking the oath of neutrality, if you come late without lawful excuse, if any official comes late without lawful excuse, he commits a criminal offense. So looking at the totality of everything, there's a lot of responsibility in addition to so many other offenses that every official, particularly in election, can commit. There are so many others. So these are, it's it's not just enough for you to say you are recruited by INEC as before, you just casually take the job. When you take that job, you're exposing yourself. There's certain responsibilities that go with the job, regardless. Even the chairman of the commission, as chief electoral commissioner recognized by the constitution, the returning officer for the presidential election takes that oath. So
that's section 120, direction of duty.
Correct. That's section 120, that's direction of duty for every official. Once you complete, so it's good we're doing this countdown. So any polling station that doesn't open, unit that doesn't open on time, if the presiding officer does not have reasonable excuse or good reason for coming late, it commits a criminal offense. Yes.
They are aware of all of this.
Yeah. I think in the training they are informed. By the way, that's not new. That's a new provision. So it used to be section 123 of the old act. So it's not new. But I think there's more focus on that now. And from my experience, sometimes we don't have a good reason. In yesterday's briefing, we know that some officials somewhere in the, I think the most state in the east, who were trained, declined. Maybe being aware of this, they declined. Although they cited security reasons, they said, sorry, we don't think we can partake in this. Some people, some parents, some guardians call their wards and say, look, you are doing your NYC in this place. It's a strange place. Please don't take part in any until I'm scared. There's probably some good reason. Remember in Juna, Bauchi, and some places, post 2011, there was post-election violence. Unfortunately, some young youth couples were killed. In 2019, in River State, maybe Konta was killed. So these things have happened. But there were responsibilities on the part of the presiding officers and all officials partaking, all the national commissioners taking.
So at what point do they swear this oath? And who conduct the oath swearing on them?
Well, first of all, you also read this act in conjunction with other acts of the National Assembly, and there's the Evidence Act, there's the Oath Act. Yeah. So,
the second schedule also is being.
There's a model of the schedule. Now, the schedule allows INEC to do that, but you take an oath before a notary public or a commissioner for oaths. Those are the only people who are entitled by law to administer binding oaths. Although the second schedule has now allowed INEC, and some people in INEC are notary publics or commissioners for oaths, they can take that.
Mr. Wago, I'm curious. You grinned a little bit when he talked about the issue.
I'm just excited about Sheu's interesting.
Because I mean, you a field man. Guess what? This man is always right beside me at every polling unit, so he knows what I'm talking about.
Please stick to constitution. This is your law TV. But anyway,
it broadens your mind.
Yes. So the challenge for me is consequence management, and what I mean by that is, these things have always been there. A challenge is when people don't keep to them what happens. In fact, we saw the IG saying that policemen had already taken votes when they were, and that is really worrying.
Does it go against the spirit of this?
It's the law that you are talking about. They have to swear and vote. Election is for the purpose of this job.
So that oath should have been taken at their training when they had their.
Wherever, if they didn't take it, but for him to be on television saying, look, they had already, because the journalist asked that question, and he said they had already taken it. And it comes to mind the attitude, our attitude to the law. Election is a law thing. Like Barrister Saze said, everything you do in election is guided by the law. If it's not guided by the Constitution, then it is by the guideline. So, whichever way, if election fails, like I've kept on saying, is a failure of law enforcement. That people are not willing to sanction. And that has always been the challenge. So you see electoral officials who should know this, who should have been brought up to speed with their responsibilities and the consequences of not performing their duty the way it has been determined by the law guiding the process. When that happens, everybody just pretends it is not in the law, and that's the cause of that.
Apologies to cut in. We've come to the very moment.
Oh yeah.
We've all been waiting for the last 360 days or more. 8:30 a.m. right here in Nigeria, and the ballot help. I wish we had a ballots are open officially, Nigerians can now start voting. 8:30 a.m. And yes, of course, the the polls are open for accreditation and voting. So wherever you may be, know that you can now approach the ad hoc officials or INEC officials, get accredited with a BVAS, with your PVC. No PVC, no voting. Congratulations, Nigeria. Congratulations, everyone, because this indeed is a landmark moment in our history, the 7th election in the 4th Republic, the moment of transition. Wherever way he goes, we will have a new president. The sitting president is now seeking re-election. He would have exhausted 8 years by May. That's the maximum anyone is allowed. No third term. As a maximum anybody is allowed by the Constitution to spend in office.
If you want to go by what we heard, he said he can't wait to get back to his farm in Durham. But talking about this and the way things are, that sounded like we're going to the new year with the way this is the time we have been waiting to go new year.
It's a dispensation now, because look, we've been waiting for this moment. And it's like a new trading day on the stock exchange.
So there should be a gong.
So there's been a gong,
Oh, it's not like that. Okay, Prof. I said earlier about talking to you about the sands of all of this. You said something about the voting being just an element in the democratic process. Now, the Red Cap chief had talked about the fact that the law, the consequence management, I guess that's also part of the process of the democratic process. But when you want to look at the science of it, the voter, the institution, the INEC, the security operatives, and how all of this plays out, what do you think? Are we on course towards that which should be called a democratic process that Nigeria deserves?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, democracy is a process, it's a journey, not a destination. And all over the world,
that's why I said, are we on course?
All over the world, including in the US, and Europe, what we've noticed in the past couple of years, has been democratic reversals. Right-wing elements seizing power in many, or winning power in many European countries. We regard that as a reversal. In our own area, in Africa, we've seen, reversals either through coup or what we call constitutional coup by, people wanting to return power.
Okay, well, it is still serious matters on ONIF TV. Like I told you earlier on that I will be chipping in, I'll be coming in frequently to, let you know some things. But then I want to show you this video very quickly. Let's see this video very, very quickly. Those are the...
Everybody, mama, papa, king, everybody come outside. See mosquito net, it's less than 20 inside that place. Small sugar. For year today.
Okay, well, I'll take that again. I want us to be able to see what's happening in that place. That is those are Nigerians said to be obedient, who slept outside. They went to sleep at their polling unit. Your minds are made. Let's watch this again.
Everybody, mama, papa, king, everybody come outside. See mosquito net, less than 20 inside that place. Small sugar. For year today.
Well, no vex vote. No vex. The change we have been gunning for is here, I guess so, and I believe so. The change we have been gunning for is actually here. Let's continue with our analysts at Channels Television.
Beyond the constitutionally allowed term limits. Fortunately, and we must give President Buhari credit for that, from the word go, he indicated that he will not go for any attempt to elongate his tenure. So is it science? The science of it. What's interesting is that man is always curious. Man is a curious being, and people always want to see the future. So you can see that in this cycle, we've had more polls than probably in all our previous elections. Before then, it was almost a market dominated by, market quote unquote, dominated by people who claim to hear directly from God. And people were interested on what does this prophet say who will win. And that time, if you are trying to run for an office, you must have one or two men of God or women of God who have prophesied that you will be the one. Now they have done an attempt to introduce a scientific element into that. That scientific element has been an avalanche of polls predicting differently.
We've seen campaigns in churches, we've seen campaigns in mosques.
Is that all those predictions, all those analyses, they were focused on electoral outcome. In other words, there was no way they could factor in those non-ballot elements. It was all, it's based on what economists will call ceteris paribus, all things being equal. So even if they were right in the polls, in the conducted and the methodology and everything is right, and the non-ballot elements like vote buying, insecurity, they interfere, then the outcome will be different. So we are just hoping today, we're also going to test a proposition. I see some of those polls as propositions. We test them today and see the outcome. And from a scientific point of view, if some of the analysts, there are some of the polls that will tell you, look, we've got 4/4. All our predictions are good. So whatever they predicted, you analyze the methodology. We look at, say, this hypothesis or proposition, how will it be validated today?
Mr. Mark, let me come to you. I mean, having been in the field, and we know that for the build-up to this election, there was this question about access to cash, the question of vote buying, the big question mark. I know ANEC did say they're taking some measures to ensure that things go right. Now that this is going on today, given how dynamic and exciting new voters, millions of new voters who are on the ballot, who are going to vote today, do you think that we, to a large extent, have sufficiently, even from the Commission's perspective, sufficiently addressed this question of people trying to induce voters?
Chabadin, I'll start with you, Corel. I think you should give this Mr. Wagu just so that we can. Because
we'll come back to them. We'll come back to Channels Television. Let's join Arise News to see what the discussion is there.
So vote buying. There are those who argue that
DP praise, whatever. Yeah, so both Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, when he declined outright, said he's not going to do it. Yes, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu said to me, give me a new time, and in the end we couldn't find the period that works. But I am extremely disappointed with the sort of quality of conversations I've seen these people having. I think to a certain extent I have to even blame us, the media, right? Because we have an agenda setting role, right? And sometimes we allow ourselves to be too much directed by social media and the noise on social media, and so we sometimes allow them to set the agenda for the conversation.
But you can't force them if they don't want to come.
I'm not talking about coming. I'm talking about the media as agenda setters of the sort of conversations we'll be having about the people who seek to lead us. I would have loved to see a lot more coverage on sort of the actual issues, the promises they're making, their manifesto. Yes. What they're promising Nigerians, and a little bit less on all the controversial, big, massive issues that in many ways sidetracked the event. Because let's be honest, there's no angel among these four. I'm sorry.
There's none. Kadira, are you sure it's not because they've not
sorry.
Well, anyway, they did not really promise so much.
Let me finish.
We'll be back soon. So we're going to break now, and we'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Think Zenith. In today's fast-moving, fast-changing world, you need a financial partner that understands your unique expectations. A bank with presence in major financial centers across the world, with the enabling platform to facilitate seamlessly, whenever, wherever, however.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Airtel will pay also.
Don't carry arms to the police units just to maintain order. 310,000.
But they're the ones, they're the ones wearing the blue uniform. They're not wearing their usual...
Yes, they have a new uniform.
They have a uniform for that.
Blue camouflage, right? Yeah. So they have a new uniform.
Yeah.
I think many Nigerians are familiar with that uniform. It's not a strange occurrence. And 310,973 policemen will be on duty, in addition to 93,133 other security personnel, customs, immigration, NDLEA, and of course the Road Safety Corps. They will also be there to assist, bringing that total of security men available for the polling units across the country to 404,106 security personnel. Of course, that excludes the military and the DSS, who are also taking positions just to maintain peace across the country. So Nigerians will be rest assured. The election will kick off at 8:30. That is the time.
That is important.
So, of course, in a place like Kano, you can see enthusiasm. People are already there, according to our reporter on ground, since 6 a.m. because they want to be part of the process. And I'm sure in other parts of the country, we have similar enthusiasm.
Kano has the second largest number of voters, by the way, after Lagos.
After Lagos. Yes, and Kano has a history of coming out to match their number. Unlike Lagos in the past, we have 6 million voters. The highest you've had in Lagos is about 1.6 million.
Anyway, I want to ask Kadri a question. You know the NSAS thing, I mean, it's etched in everybody's memories. It's not a date anybody can forget for a lifetime. And I think what makes this election even more exciting is the fact that this is not a two-horse race anymore. There's actually a third force, and maybe a fourth force, but it's different from what we normally are used to. And I wanted to even ask.
People say that, but we've had races where there have been 3 candidates, as considered leading.
Exactly. Now, but my question is that do you feel that the NSAS incident has given the youth more confidence?
Well,
to ensure that their voices are heard more this time around?
I think what we can say for a fact is that they've realized that they can play a role in determining the direction Nigeria, follows. And that's why I said, these elections, if you have to, regardless of whether elections or not, we have to thank Mr. Peter Obi, because he did ignite a certain segment and a certain Nigeria that traditionally were sort of apathetic towards elections. So for that we have to be grateful, because unless
their invaluable
So for that we have to be grateful, because unless the people engage with their country, then it's unlikely that you'll be able to get nation building done properly. Having said that, it is important to note that the youth vote has actually declined in 2023. Ironically, by almost 5 million, right? So in 2019, you had more people registered to vote from the age of 18 to 34. That number, if you look at INEC figures, has declined by about 5 million. Nobody knows. I would speculate, my speculation would be maybe people who became older than entered the sort of 35-year bracket are sort of slightly more than those who became 18. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. But 5 million, is a substantial number of people. So sometimes when we talk about data, we're enthusiastic, and because we are, and it's a good thing, but we don't interrogate some of it. So there are 5 million less 18 to 35-year-olds voting than did in 2019. That's if they all come out.
That's right.
Because, it's also a question of people collect and don't come out. The second thing is those numbers of young people. Those young people are actually domiciled mostly in the north of the country. So with Plateau having the sort of highest number of young voters of something like 50.1%, right? And the in Adamawa 46.1, and then the rest of the states, Lagos has the lowest with about 26.1. But when you hear the conversation in public media,
because that's the perception.
You wouldn't assume, because some people don't sort of
on social media.
On social media.
One would have thought that it would have increased a lot more.
But I take the good of it, which is that you have the majority of young people are sort of now engaged in the process. They understand the power that they have. They understand that they can make a difference, and they are engaging. And without that engagement, I think we could continue to do same old. So there's an energy and that they've brought to this, election. There's an enthusiasm that I hope is sustained beyond these particular elections, and we keep building on it until such a time where it becomes part of our civic culture that we're always involved and we're always engaged.
I'll come back to that in a bit, but Emmanuel, I see that you.
I think for the first time, the electorate is poised with options.
For the first time?
Because if you look from
more so now than before,
1999 is despite the fact that registration of political parties has become very easy. You have so many parties on the ballot, but to be very serious, it's always been more or less a two-horse race. And it's a throwback from the military era. Recall that when Babangida, former President Ibrahim Babangida, decreed two political parties into existence.
SDP and NRC.
Yes. He based his idea on some scholarly inputs that, Nigeria is better off as a two-party state instead of regional big parties. And as a carryover from that, the first election under this dispensation, Obasanjo, Falaye, two political parties, major political parties, AD and APP, had to come into alliance and collapse their structure on one person. It was a two-horse race. And that has been the trend, irrespective of the number of political parties. Two major candidates is either A or B. That's how it has been.
But over the years,
but for the first, other parties are always there.
Like APC,
with due respect to the smaller parties.
They were 70.
Let's just call them the smaller parties for want of a better word.
Yes.
They've not been making any impact, as you can see. And INEC has been deregistering some of these parties after election. But for the first time in recent memory, we have 4 solid candidates. We don't know who will emerge tops today. But what we have seen on the campaign trail, huge following, the 4 political parties, PDP, APC, Labour, and NNPP. They've had huge following, the kind of crowd you used to see in the Second Republic, NPN.
Exactly, do we have the ghost of Second Republic?
Yes. I have a theory about that crowd.
Yes, no.
The crowd that you see.
No, Kadira, whatever you want to say. No, hold on.
I'm suggesting it's the same people that show up for APC, that show up for PDP, that show up for...
How come they don't show up for smaller parties?
That has actually crossed my mind.
Because some people, this is the only point in their life where they're going to have, if you like, let's call it dividends of democracy.
Yeah, but
and at the time when
you're talking about the mobilization.
Yes.
No, but Kadira, at least for the first time, we have 4 parties that can mobilize in that way.
No, I'm not.
So there are 4 parties that were able to mobilize, but the real test of that mobilization will be seen today. And that is the fact that Nigerians have a choice. And for whatever, look at the 4 candidates. These are solid guys. Whoever wins today must have worked hard for it.
I want to ask that's the thing. Nobody will win these elections and say it came easy.
Yeah.
No. I'm even curious. Do you think at the last card check that some of them might have a plan B?
What do you mean?
Like maybe one party or one candidate can talk to another candidate if they see the way.
But it's too late for that. It's too late for the election day. If that was not done before Thursday,
you will just confuse your voters.
There were suggestions and indications of alignment, but here we are.
Perhaps what will happen if we don't have a winner in the first ballot,
that's what I'm saying.
Then perhaps
that was why I asked
alignment and realignment.
The first ballot.
At a runoff.
Yes.
Yes, if
there's a runoff.
So there's a little bit of misinformation about the runoff that is out there, and I said if I got an opportunity, I will correct it. So most people assume if you have a runoff, automatically the first two candidates will go into the runoff. That's not the case. That's not the case. So the law says the first person with the highest votes
number
automatically will go as the candidate one for them. But the second person might not necessarily be the person who comes in. The second
You see people CBC everywhere.
Is majority, which is over 50%. So the person who has won over 50% of the votes in the most states.
Okay.
Will then become the second person.
Even if he doesn't have the
highest number
of votes.
Yes. If he has over 50, so if you look at people who are dominating their regions, like a Peter Obi, right? There's a real possibility if he goes to a runoff that he'll be the second candidate on that ballot paper. Not necessarily the person who comes second in the first round. Because you need to get at least 50%, what is called a majority, at least 50% in more states.
50% in full vibes.
No, I'm just telling you. I'm telling you what the law says. I'm telling you what the law says. So if today you, me, and Ruth go into this competition, I have the highest votes, followed by Ruth, and then you come third, right? I automatically, as the person with the highest votes, goes into a runoff. Right?
Yes.
But it's not necessarily Ruth. Unless Ruth, in addition to having the highest votes, also has more states where she's won over 50%. If you have more...
Okay, very quickly, let me bring up some developments that we already have. Some PVCs were said to have been found at a particular location somewhere in Lagos. So the message is being passed around now that those who registered around Oshodi Solo, who haven't gotten their PVCs, should go there and get their PVC. It was found at an hotel somewhere around there. Let's see.
You see people's PVC everywhere on the floor. Everywhere on the floor. Come to Nobis and claim your own. Hey, God.
Well, that is Isolo, Okota Isolo, local government area found in Nobis Hotel, Agor Palace Way. Nobis Hotel, Agor Palace Way. So if you are still around that area, you want your PVC, please go there and get your PVC so that you can still exercise your franchise. I'm very, very certain they cannot hinder you from or disenfranchising you from voting or performing your civic responsibility. In a related development, MC Oluomo allegedly stops drivers from moving election material. That's a very interesting one there anyway. MC Oluomo has allegedly stopped drivers from moving electoral materials. Very important here. Well, the yesterday at the three local government areas, namely Ojo, Apapa, Mushin, as MC Oluomo Akinsoya, Mr. Musiliu Akinsoya, MC Oluomo, also known as MC Oluomo, led Lagos State Park and Garage Management Committee, threatened and stopped the Independent National Electoral Committee, INEC accredited vehicles from leaving the council's office with election materials. Oh God, oh God, oh God. Well, let's see what the reactions are going to be. Let's see what security officials are going to do about this. Recall that the INEC and the National Association of Road Transport Owners a few weeks ago signed a memorandum of understanding on the logistics in the movement of election material. Confirming the development, the Lagos State Chapter Chairman of NATO, Alhaji Kayode Oduowo, said that he got reports from drivers in the three local locations
of harassment and threats to members of NATO by members of the Lagos Park and Garage Management Committee. Oduoye, sorry, I beg your pardon, Oduowo also said that despite the presence of police officers at these locations, members of the Park and Garage Committee still went ahead to stop drivers from moving materials out of those locations. Well, he told Vanguard that the matter has been reported to the executive members of NATO, adding he was awaiting their instructions before he takes action. Speaking in similar vein, the Lagos State NATO Task Force Chairman Comrade Ridwan Bello told Vanguard that the entire Lagos Island has been under his charge, but the boys from the Lagos State Park and Garage Management Committee have stopped movement of election materials, adding that MC Oluomo's boys are sabotaging the logistics process of the material. Why are these guys still free? Why are they still moving around? Why are they still free, for crying out loud? I think the president had given an order. Why are these guys? Who are they? Who are they? I don't understand. In any case, we'll just wait and see how things unfold. Bello also said if urgent steps were not taken to call Musiliu Akinsanya and his boys to order, the entire election process in Lagos State could be truncated. Efforts to reach Jimoh Buhari, spokesman for Oluomo, was futile as calls and text messages to his phone was not answered. Neither were the messages responded to. When Vanguard contacted a close associate of Oluomo, he said he's not sure Oluomo would make any threat that could undermine Tinubu's chances of winning today's presidential election. In his reaction, Lagos Resident Electoral Commission Olusegun Agbaje said election under my watch is on course. It's not every issue that I must react to. On his part, INEC Commissioner for Voters Education, Mr. Festus Okoye said, I have not been briefed or informed of the incident and it may be counterproductive to speculate. Nigerians are engaged with the electoral process and we shall do all that is within our power to move materials and personnel to locations. Well, let's see how the whole thing unfolds, because I know that there's not going to be any, just like that person said, I don't think MC Oluomo will want to do anything that would truncate the chances of his principal, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, winning this election. So let us see how this is being reacted to by INEC and also by security officials. As we go back to join, maybe we should just go back to Abuja, where we have the Channels News crew waiting for us. Let's go and join them and see how things they go for Abuja from that side.
We have had in the electoral process. The people have said, well, the cash for votes needs to be domiciled with all scrupulous INEC officials. Not, for me, the dereliction of duty in the sense in which I was talking about it. I'm just saying that why it is important that people do their job is that if one does not, the vendors who have responsibility to provide the logistics for moving those vehicles, if they default from their own...
those are visuals on board, no?
Yes.
So...
the combo, our combo in the obstacle elections is just... That's what I'm looking at, where you are pushing cameras into the arena. So, you remember, there's usually a line that is being mounted as a barricade to demarcate the voting arena, and just to allow people to stay within a particular area. What I was talking about is simply that if we do not do what we have to do, then it affects, is a chain, and once somebody breaks that chain, you then have to get to. So there are responsibilities for the presiding officer. He has to do what he's doing. But if he comes late, there is pressure on him to boycott those processes. And once you now start using discretion, then there's a challenge. You live no longer, and that's for me what is important.
Well, I know that we still have Mr. Nalegu, virtually. I hope Mr. Nalegu, we haven't lost you. We know you're still there, but let me just pick up on what Eze did say, and Sean tried to highlight as well. How do security officials conduct themselves? For instance, I mean, we've been told that usually if you do not have your permanent voter cards, don't even bother going to that area, just stay home. How do you think that the officials will have a hard time, or have they had a hard time previously ensuring that they're part of the law?
Well, most of the time there is compliance that if you don't have your PVC, you don't go near to the polling unit. But in some places, we've had some people trying to go, especially some people that have, would I say, questionable PVC in the time of the other system. But I'm told that the beavers and I recognize it for this fingerprint. But of course, some people will attend. But and that's when they call for help to get such individual out of the polling area. But the deployment is such a way that you may not even have the opportunity of getting close to the polling unit, because at the outer layer, there are other officers there who will screen those who are coming. You must show. But there are instances that some people don't really, should I say, unruly. But that's why we have the security deployment at those locations.
Talk to us about this if you can. I mean, we also did highlight here, analysts did point out how they think it sends a wrong message on the part of the police when the IG did say, well, they already took this oath. So does he know? Have you been able to put a call through to get fillers? Because they are actually supposed to have taken a fresh oath in line with the requirements of the law. Because when he did say, look, we've already done this previously, it sends a wrong signal.
Well, and I think
Okay, before we allow our Oga to answer that question, I just want to bring to you very quickly a video of a situation report. Yesterday I reported that, of course, you must have seen that video of roads being destroyed in Kaduna, in Kogi, I beg your pardon, because they don't want election materials to cross into Kogi Central. However, a very, very interesting scenario has played out where the, what are they called now? The youths in that region are taking it upon themselves to get bulldozers to fix the road back. They have, this is interesting. It's very interesting. And I want you to, I want you to watch this. Hold on. I want you to watch this, see, so that you can see this video. Let's see. Let's see this video. Well, very, very interesting there. Very, very interesting there. You'll find out that Nigerians are resolute. Nigerians have their mind made concerning these particular elections. They have made up their mind as touching this one. They want to have a feel of democracy. They want to taste the real democracy, and that's why you see Nigerian youths. They went to get that bulldozer themselves. But because when I read the story that the governor had a hand in this, in destroying the roads that they built, that was built to make life easy for people, they now went to destroy those roads just to hinder election materials. If you have done well, you won't need this. You won't need this happening. If you have done well, you won't need it. You won't need it. You won't need to do all this. Well, I will let me quickly just bring this also. Let me bring this development to you very quickly. Well, this is coming from Edo State. We have the Commissioner of Police and all of that on election duty. I mean, they are doing a very great job there, back there in Edo State. We'll come back and then we'll come and join Channels Television in a moment. Let us see this particular video. Well, that is the Commissioner of Police in Edo State. At least I know somebody from Edo. But then, you see that the commissioner is not even sitting down in his office to... No. It's not a time to sit down in the office. This is not a time to show that I am the boss and all of that. But then, very quickly, let us go back to Abuja, where we joined the former Inspector General of Police on, matters arising. Okay. Can we hear you, sir?
Since it's a matter of law, police officers are sworn officers. They are not going to say because a governor wants to carry out a special assignment, you bring another oath for him to take. But he swears an oath to the Constitution. He swears an oath that he is going to abide by the Constitution and all that. So, if an officer, you cannot pass out of the training institution, either the police colleges or the police academy, without swearing an oath. And that is in your file. Because that's what considers you suitable to be considered a police officer. So I imagine that what the idea is talking about is that police officers are sworn officers. And so you don't find them coming again to re-emphasize. That's...
I beg your pardon. I'm not sure if I made your point. Did I make your point when you were talking about the issues you raised previously?
Well, I think the former AIG perhaps is still around what the IG said. And he's basing that on having sworn an oath and then comparing, for me, at the risk of being immodest, comparing apples and oranges, that governors who have sworn to an oath. Why do you... he talked about the fact that policemen should be civil, they should be... he reeled out all the new things that were brought into the training. Those were things that they did in their training school. Ordinarily, we expect a policeman to be civil. We expect a policeman to be professional. We expect so why do you then, in the course of this assignment, put resources into retraining them? In retraining them, you are bringing them up to speed because there is a special assignment that they have to engage in. Now, the law, I'm not talking about, it is not about what I want. The law says if you are going to be involved, because it's not every policeman that is involved in election duty.
So if you are going to be involved in election duty, there is a specific kind of oath that you are going to be taking, not oath to the Constitution. The one you took. It is the oath of neutrality and impartiality. Okay. So the one you took is to federal government. Your allegiance to federal government. This one is specific.
Just a moment. We have one of our correspondents. I mean, that's what makes this very process more interesting, because you get to have the feeler across where you're not physically present. You have people who are covering it for us. So Olumide Macaulay, our correspondent, is in Lagos, and to bring us up to speed. Olumide, it's good to see you. You perhaps as dressed as those of us here in the studio, looking very ready for the process. What is going on? Where exactly are you in Lagos?
Good morning, Seun. I am at Bordelon Road in Ikoyi, on the island in Lagos State, and I'm standing in front of a polling unit, which, as you can see, haven't begun the affairs of the day. It's polling unit 034, and even before 8:30, which time voting the process was to start, there was nobody here, and we asked questions as to the ad hoc INEC staff, why they weren't present and why it wasn't set up yet, and they weren't even sure at the time whether this polling unit was the one they were deployed to. Fast forward to about 10 minutes ago, to the arrival of these staff of INEC, ad hoc staff, as you can see, National Youth Service Corps members, who began to bring the material and set up the area for the voting. They started putting posters on the walls directing people on how to vote. As at 8:30, the residents of this area in Bordelon in Ikoyi had begun to arrive to look for the arrival of the INEC staff, and the police were here even before them, as well as the Nigerian Security Defense Corps, the NSCDC, as well. So it seems as though we're running a little late.
Olumide, let me allow you and your cameraman to express yourself. We have some few minutes with you, and if your cameraman can just pull out a bit so we can feel the environment beyond the frame that we can see now. Let's see what is going on around, and if you can run some commentary under that, the live picture that we can see right now, so that we can get a sense. We've got some few minutes with you, Olumide, so go ahead, give us a feel. Let's see more of what is going on around you.
Yes, indeed, Seun. As I said earlier, we are in Ikoyi at Bordelon Road, and if the cameraman can move a bit to the right or to the left, or if he has to stay stationary, the point we're making is that the process has not begun. The INEC staff have arrived. They didn't arrive on time. You can see they are setting up, bringing out the material. It appears they're not going to start any time soon, but the residents of the area, the voters, the electorate, are already present. You'll also find that there are some police officers. There's a police officer who is here, and the NSCDC, who are also here present, waiting for the process to begin. Some of the voters, as you can see, are seated
But this limits it to polling officials.
Okay.
So maybe it's in terms of reform, we should extend to everybody partaking in the process, including security officials. If a security official doesn't come, they cannot move. If they move on anything until what happens, they'll